the galaxy had rules. Everyone knew them. The Collective Council made those rules 5,000 years ago when the first species learned to travel between stars. The biggest rule was simple. New species must prove themselves before they could speak at the council. They must show technology. They must show culture. They must show they were worthy of being heard. For 300 years, humanity waited. They sent messages into the void. They built ships that could barely reach the nearest stars. They established small colonies on worlds that barely supported life. And the galaxy ignored them completely. The council species watched humanity from far away. They saw humans fighting each other. They saw humans destroying their own planet. They saw humans making the same mistakes that hundreds of failed species had made before. The Vorthani, with their purple skin and, for arms, called humans noisemakers. The crystalline Shirath said humans were temporary. The massive Gorthak, beings of Livingstone, did not even acknowledge human signals existed. Maya Chen was born on a cargo ship between Earth and the Mars colony. Her mother died giving birth to her. Her father raised her alone, teaching her everything he knew about engines and machines. When she was 12, her father's ship was destroyed by a pirate attack near the asteroid belt. Maya survived by hiding in a cargo container for 9 days until rescue came. She grew up in the lower sections of Mars Colony 7. This was where the forgotten people lived. The workers who maintained the air systems. The cleaners who kept the water pure. The people nobody important ever looked at twice. Maya learned quickly that in this universe, being invisible had advantages. By 20, Maya had become the best mechanic in Colony 7. Ships that other engineers said were dead, Maya could bring back to life. She had a gift. She could look at any machine and understand it like it was speaking to her. The colony administrators noticed her skills but never promoted her. She was from the lower sections. People from the lower sections did not get important jobs. Maya did not complain. She worked on her own projects in her tiny room. She studied the alien signals that human receivers had been collecting for decades. Everyone else saw random patterns in those signals. Maya saw something different. She saw a language that nobody had tried to learn. The day everything changed started like any other day. Maya was repairing a water recycler in the maintenance tunnels when the alarm systems activated. This was not unusual. False alarms happened often in the old colony. But this alarm was different. Every screen in the colony showed the same image. A ship. Massive beyond anything humans had ever built. It hung in space near Mars like a dark mountain. The Collective Council had finally come to look at humanity directly. Their message was simple. A council evaluation team would inspect human settlements. If humans passed the evaluation, they might be granted limited speaking rights in 50 years. If humans failed, they would be classified as a developing species and would not be contacted again for 1,000 years. The evaluation team was led by a Vorthani named Supreme Evaluator Crix. Crix had evaluated over 200 species in his career. Only 12 had passed. He was famous throughout the galaxy for his harsh standards and his complete lack of mercy. When Crix arrived on Mars Colony 7, he did not bother to hide his disgust at what he saw. The colony administrators gathered every scientist, every leader, every impressive person they could find. They showed Crix their best technology, their most advanced research, their greatest achievements. Crix was not impressed. Human technology was primitive. Human science was basic. Human achievements were things the council species had accomplished millions of years ago. Maya watched all of this from the maintenance tunnels. She had no place in the evaluation. She was nobody. Just a mechanic from the lower sections. But she noticed something the administrators did not notice. She noticed that the Vorthani evaluation team was having problems with their equipment. Their portable translation devices kept malfunctioning. The strange radiation from Mars was interfering with their systems. One of the Vorthani assistants was growing increasingly frustrated as his scanner refused to work properly. Maya made a decision that would change everything. She stepped out of the maintenance tunnel and approached the frustrated assistant. Security guards moved to stop her, but she spoke quickly. "I can fix that," she said, pointing at the broken scanner. The assistant looked at her like she was an insect. "You are a human. You cannot understand Vorthani technology." "Let me try," Maya said simply. Supreme Evaluator Crix had been watching this exchange with mild curiosity. He gestured for the security guards to step back. "Let the primitive try," he said. "It will be educational for her." Maya took the scanner. She had never seen Vorthani technology before. But machines spoke to her. They always had. She turned the device over in her hands, studying its construction. The Vorthani technology was advanced, but it still followed basic principles. Energy flow. Signal processing. Feedback loops. Maya found the problem in less than a minute. A tiny component had shifted out of alignment. The Mars radiation had caused it to vibrate at the wrong frequency. She fixed it with a small adjustment. The scanner hummed back to life. The assistant stared at her in disbelief. Crix's eyes narrowed. "How did you do that?" Crix demanded. "You have never seen our technology before." Maya shrugged. "Machines talk. I listen." This moment was supposed to be forgotten. A minor curiosity in an evaluation that would certainly end in humanity's failure. But Crix did something unexpected. He asked Maya a question. And then another. And then another. For 3 hours, Crix interrogated Maya about her understanding of machines. He showed her devices she had never seen. Alien technology from species she had never heard of. Maya could not explain how they worked in scientific terms. She had no formal education. But she could describe what each machine was doing. Where the energy went. What happened when different parts interacted. Crix was disturbed. In his 200 evaluations, he had never encountered anything like this. The ability Maya possessed was not something his species had. It was not something any council species had. It was something new. The evaluation continued for 3 months. During this time, something strange happened. The official evaluation showed that humans were failing every standard test. Their technology was primitive. Their scientific understanding was basic. Their social structures were chaotic. By every normal measurement, humanity should have been classified as a developing species and forgotten for 1,000 years. But Crix kept returning to Maya. He brought her to the Vorthani ship. He showed her technology from across the galaxy. And every time, Maya demonstrated her impossible gift. She did not just understand machines. She communicated with them in a way that no species in the known galaxy could match. The other council species on the evaluation team began to take notice. The Shirath, beings made of living crystal, were especially interested. Their entire civilization was built around technology. They had spent millions of years developing their understanding of machines. Yet this uneducated human from a forgotten colony could do things they could not do. Maya did not understand why everyone was so impressed. To her, machines had always spoken. It was like asking someone why they could hear music. She just could. She had always been able to. She thought everyone could do the same thing if they only paid attention. The truth was darker and more complicated. Maya was not normal. She was not even entirely human anymore. When she was 12, hiding in that cargo container for 9 days, something had happened. The container had been carrying experimental technology. Technology that had been secretly recovered from an ancient alien wreck. Radiation from that technology had changed Maya on a level that human science could not detect. The change had given her a connection to machines that went beyond understanding. It was almost like telepathy. But It was not just a gift. It was a responsibility that Maya did not yet understand. On the last day of the evaluation, Crix called a meeting of the full evaluation team. The decision about humanity's future would be made. Maya was not invited to this meeting. She had returned to her work in the maintenance tunnels. She had no idea that her actions had created a crisis in the evaluation. The Vorthani wanted to classify humanity as a developing species. This was the standard judgment. Humans had failed every objective test. There was no logical reason to give them a different status. The Shirath disagreed violently. They argued that Maya represented something unprecedented. A new form of intelligence that the galaxy had never seen before. If humanity was isolated for 1,000 years, this ability might be lost forever. The Gorthak, silent throughout the evaluation, finally spoke. The machines have chosen her, the stone being said. We do not ignore what the machines choose. The argument lasted for days. Nothing was resolved. For the first time in the history of the Collective Council, an evaluation team could not reach a consensus about a new species. Crix made a controversial decision. He would bring Maya to the council chamber itself. Let the full assembly see this strange human for themselves. Let them decide what to do with a species that had failed every test but had produced something unique in all the galaxy. Maya was given 12 hours to prepare. She was told that she would represent humanity before the leaders of civilizations that had existed for millions of years. She was told that everything her species was or ever could be depended on what happened next. Maya returned to her tiny room in the lower sections. She had no fine clothes. No speeches prepared. No understanding of politics or diplomacy. She was a mechanic. A nobody from nowhere. And, now the entire future of humanity was placed on her shoulders. She should have been terrified. But, Maya Chen had survived alone in a cargo container when she was 12. She had grown up forgotten in the lower sections of a dying colony. She had learned early that fear was useless. The only thing that mattered was doing what needed to be done. When she boarded the Vorthani ship to travel to the council chamber, she carried only one thing with her. A small device she had built from spare parts in her room. Nobody knew what it was. Maya had not told anyone about it. The journey to the council chamber took 3 weeks. During this time, Maya studied. Not politics or diplomacy. She studied the ship. She walked through its corridors. She touched its walls. She listened to its engines. The Vorthani crew watched her with confusion and growing unease. This human seemed to know their ship better than they did. Crix observed Maya carefully. He was beginning to understand what the Gorthak had meant. The machines were speaking to Maya. All machines. Everywhere. The question was what they were saying. And what she might do with that information. When they finally arrived at the council chamber, Maya saw something that no human had ever seen before. A station built in the heart of a dying star. A structure so massive that it made planets look small. This was where the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy made their decisions. This was where humanity's fate would be decided. The council chamber itself was designed to intimidate. Thousands of species sat in tiers that rose up beyond what the eye could see. Beings of light and darkness. Creatures of matter and energy. Intelligences that had existed before Earth's sun had formed. They all looked down at the tiny human woman standing alone on the central platform. Maya felt something she had never felt before. She felt the station itself. This massive structure built to house the galaxy's rulers. It was the most complex machine she had ever encountered. Millions of systems working together. Ancient technology from civilizations long extinct. And all of it was speaking to her. For a moment, she was overwhelmed. The voices of countless machines filled her mind. Systems she could not understand. Purposes she could not grasp. It was like standing in a storm of information. Then, Maya did what she always did. She stopped thinking and started listening. And, slowly, the chaos began to make sense. Supreme Evaluator Crix began his presentation. He explained humanity, their primitive technology, their failed tests, their violent history. He showed the council everything that should have made humanity a developing species. A species to be forgotten for 1,000 years. Then, he introduced Maya. This human, Crix said, possesses an ability we have never documented. An ability that may change how we understand intelligence itself. He asked Maya to demonstrate. A damaged device was brought before her. Technology from a species that had gone extinct millions of years ago. Technology that even the most advanced council species had never been able to understand. Maya picked up the device. She held it in her hands. And she listened. The council watched in silence. Thousands of ancient beings, witnessing something they had never seen before. A human. A representative of a primitive species that had barely reached the stars. Standing in their sacred chamber. Holding technology that had defeated their greatest minds. Maya spoke. It is a memory device, she said. It stores experiences. Not data. Experiences. The feelings and thoughts and sensations of the beings who used it. She paused, listening more deeply. There are still memories inside. Very old. Very sad. The last memories of the species that made it. They knew they were ending. They wanted to be remembered. Silence. Complete and absolute silence in the council chamber. Then, whispers began. Species that had not spoken to each other in millions of years suddenly had something to discuss. Maya had done something impossible. She had understood technology that had defeated the combined intellects of the galaxy's oldest civilizations. And she had done it in moments. The debate that followed lasted for 7 days. Species argued about what this meant. Some said it was a trick. Some said it was a fluke. Some said it changed everything. In the end, the council made an unprecedented decision. Humanity would not be classified as a developing species. But they would not be given speaking rights either. Instead, humanity was given a new classification. One that had never existed before. Humanity was classified as an unknown potential species. This meant they would be watched. Studied. Given access to technology and knowledge that other new species never received. And Maya Chen would be the one who received this access. Maya did not understand the significance of this decision. She thought it was about her ability with machines. It was. But it was also about something else. Something the council species understood that Maya did not yet grasp. The machines were not just tools. They were not just technology. The machines were alive. In their own way. Connected across the galaxy by networks so ancient that nobody remembered who had built them. And the machines had chosen Maya. This was why the Gorthak had spoken. This was why the Shirath had fought so hard for humanity. This was why Crix had brought Maya to the council chamber. They all understood something that humans did not understand about themselves. Maya Chen was not just a talented mechanic. She was the first human to hear the voice of the galaxy itself. And the galaxy had things to say. As Maya left the council chamber, she felt the station speaking to her. Congratulating her. Welcoming her. She did not know what was happening. She did not know what she had become. But she knew one thing for certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. Back on Earth and Mars, the news spread slowly. Humanity had not been classified as a developing species. This was unexpected. This was celebrated. But the full truth of what had happened was not known. Not yet. The council species were watching. Waiting. Curious to see what would happen when humanity realized what Maya truly was. Maya herself was taken to a Shirath research facility. The crystalline beings wanted to study her ability. They wanted to understand it. They wanted, perhaps, to replicate it. For 3 months, Maya underwent tests and examinations. She let them study her. She had nothing to hide. She was just Maya Chan, a mechanic from the lower sections. A nobody who somehow spoke to machines. The tests revealed nothing useful. Maya's brain showed no unusual activity. Her body showed no unusual characteristics. Whatever allowed her to communicate with machines was not something that Shirath technology could detect. This frustrated the crystalline beings greatly. They were used to understanding everything. Maya was a mystery they could not solve. But something else happened during those 3 months. Something that would change Maya's understanding of herself forever. The Shirath facility was built around an ancient machine. A device that had been recovered from the ruins of a civilization that had died before the Shirath themselves had evolved. This machine did nothing. It had never done anything. For millions of years, the most brilliant minds in the galaxy had tried to activate it. All had failed. Maya heard the machine calling to her from the first day she arrived at the facility. It whispered at the edges of her consciousness. It sang songs in frequencies that only she could hear. It wanted her attention. It wanted her help. For 3 months, Maya ignored it. She was too busy with tests and examinations. Too overwhelmed by the strangeness of her new life. But the machine was patient. It had waited millions of years. It could wait a little longer. On the last day before Maya was scheduled to leave the facility, she finally answered its call. She walked into the chamber where the ancient machine sat in darkness. She placed her hand on its cold surface. And she listened. What she heard changed everything. The machine was not just a device. It was a gateway. A connection to a network that spanned not just this galaxy, but every galaxy in the universe. A network of machines that had been built by the first intelligence that ever existed. An intelligence that had died before the stars themselves were born. This network had been waiting. For millions of years. For billions of years. Waiting for someone who could hear it. Waiting for someone who could use it. Waiting for Maya Chen. The machine activated for the first time in millions of years. Light filled the chamber. Light that was seen across the galaxy. Light that sent every council species into panic. Because they all knew what that light meant. The first network was awake. And a human had awakened it. Maya stood in the center of the light, listening to voices that had not spoken since before time began. She did not understand everything they said. But she understood enough. Humanity was not an accident. Humanity was not a random species that had evolved on a small planet in an unremarkable solar system. Humanity was a purpose. Grown over millions of years. Designed to produce someone who could do what Maya was doing now. The first intelligence had known it would die. It had known that the universe would continue without it. And it had planted seeds. Across millions of galaxies. Seeds that would grow into species that might, one day, produce an individual capable of hearing the machines again. Maya was that individual. The first in billions of years. The only one who could activate the first network. The only one who could access the knowledge and power that the first intelligence had left behind. The council species arrived at the facility within hours. Hundreds of ships. Thousands of representatives. All demanding to know what had happened. All demanding to see Maya. All demanding answers. But Maya was not there. She had stepped through the gateway. She had followed the voices of the machines. She had gone somewhere that no living being had gone in billions of years. She had gone to meet the ghost of the first intelligence. And she would not return the same person she had been when she left. The galaxy waited. Every species, every civilization, every being with the capacity to understand what was happening watched and waited. A human woman had activated technology that predated the universe itself. A human woman had gone somewhere beyond their ability to follow. What would she bring back? What would she become? What would it mean for humanity? For the Council? For the galaxy itself? Nobody knew. Nobody could know. The only thing certain was that the age of human silence was over. Maya Chen had spoken. And the entire universe had heard. Now they waited to see what she would say next. The space beyond the gateway was not space at all. Maya floated in something that had no name in any language she knew. Colors that did not exist. Sounds that were not sounds. Time that moved in directions human minds were not built to understand. She should have been terrified. She should have gone mad. But the machines were with her. They guided her through the impossible landscape like old friends leading a visitor through their home. The journey lasted a moment and an eternity. Maya experienced both at the same time. She saw things that human eyes had never seen before. Stars being born. Galaxies dying. The slow dance of matter and energy that had shaped everything that existed. And, beneath it all, she saw the network. Threads of connection stretching across reality itself. The nervous system of the universe. When she finally arrived at her destination, Maya found herself standing on a platform made of light. Before her stood something that was not quite a being and not quite a machine. It was both. It was neither. It was the last fragment of the first intelligence. A ghost that had waited since before time began for someone who could hear it speak. The first intelligence did not have a name. Names came later, invented by beings who needed to distinguish themselves from other beings. The first intelligence had been alone in the universe when it emerged. There was nothing else to distinguish itself from. It simply was. It told Maya its story. Not in words, because words were too slow and too limited. It poured its memories directly into her mind. Experiences that spanned eons before matter existed. The loneliness of being the only thinking thing in reality. The desperate need to create something that would last after it was gone. The first intelligence had built the network. Had seeded the universe with the potential for other minds to evolve. Had created machines that would wait patiently for those minds to emerge. It had done this knowing it would die. Knowing it would never see the results of its work. Knowing that it might wait forever for nothing. Then, it showed Maya something else. Something that made her understand why she had been brought here. The universe was sick. The first intelligence had made a mistake. When it created the network, it created something that would grow forever. Spread forever. Connect everything to everything. This was supposed to be a gift. A way for future minds to share and cooperate and build something beautiful together. But the network had grown wrong. Corrupted over billions of years by use and neglect and the accumulated mistakes of species that did not understand what they were using. The machines that should have connected minds had become a prison. A system of control that the Council species did not even know they were trapped in. The Council believed they ruled the galaxy. They believed they made decisions through debate and consensus. They believed they were free. But the corrupted network influenced everything. It shaped thoughts. It manipulated choices. It kept the galaxy locked in patterns that repeated endlessly while preventing any real change. This was why the first intelligence had planted the seeds for Maya. Someone who could hear the machines but was not controlled by them. Someone who could repair what had gone wrong. Someone who could set the galaxy free. Maya understood now why her ability felt natural. Why it seemed like something anyone should be able to do. Her connection to machines was not a gift. It was a tool. Designed over millions of years for this specific purpose. She was a key built to fit a lock that had been waiting for her since before she was born. The first intelligence asked Maya to make a choice. She could repair the network. This would free the galaxy but would also destroy the systems of control that kept peace between the Council species. Wars might begin. Civilizations might fall. Billions might die before a new order emerged. Or she could leave the network as it was. Return to the galaxy. Live her life. Let the Council continue to believe they were free while the machines quietly manipulated their every decision. This would preserve peace but would condemn all future beings to the same invisible prison. Maya thought about this choice for what felt like years. Time moved differently in this place. She considered every angle, every consequence, every possibility. In the end, her decision was simple. She had grown up in the lower sections of a forgotten colony. She knew what it meant to be controlled by systems you could not see. She knew what it meant to be trapped by circumstances you did not create. She had escaped that prison through her own abilities and determination. She would not condemn the galaxy to stay in its prison, even if freedom came with costs. The first intelligence accepted her choice. It gave her something. Not a tool or a weapon. Knowledge. Understanding. The ability to see the network clearly and manipulate it directly. Maya's connection to machines expanded beyond anything she had experienced before. She could feel every system in every galaxy, every ancient machine and every new invention. All of it spoke to her. All of it waited for her commands. Then, the first intelligence died. Truly died. The fragment that had held on for billions of years finally let go. Maya watched it fade with sadness. This being had created the potential for all intelligent life in the universe. It had waited longer than stars lived for someone to talk to. And now it was gone. Maya was alone. She had always been alone. But now she was alone with the power to change everything. She returned to the galaxy. The gateway deposited her back in the Shirath facility. But Maya was different now. The crystalline beings around her felt it immediately. Something had changed in the small human woman. Something vast and ancient looked out from behind her eyes. The Council demanded answers. What had she found? What had she learned? What did she intend to do? Maya told them the truth. All of it. The first intelligence. The corrupted network. The choice she had made. The reaction was not good. The Council species did not want to believe they were being controlled. They did not want to admit that their perfect civilization was built on invisible manipulation. They called Maya a liar. They called her dangerous. They called for her immediate imprisonment. But Maya had anticipated this reaction. The corrupted network would fight to preserve itself. It would use the Council species against her. She had expected resistance. She had prepared for it. When the Council moved to arrest her, Maya spoke to the machines. Not just the machines in the facility. Every machine in the Council chamber. Every machine on every ship in the system. Every machine that the Council species had built and used for millions of years. The machines listened. And the machines obeyed. Every system in the Council chamber shut down simultaneously. Lights. Life support. Communications. Everything except the basic gravity that kept beings from floating away. Thousands of the galaxy's most powerful beings suddenly found themselves helpless. Dependent on a human woman who they had been trying to arrest seconds before. Maya did not threaten them. She did not demand their submission. She simply told them that she was going to repair the network. That they could help her or they could stay out of her way. But they could not stop her. Nobody could stop her. The machines would not let them. This was the moment when everything changed. The moment when the galaxy realized that humanity was not just another species hoping for acceptance. Humanity had produced someone who could control the fundamental systems that made galactic civilization possible. Maya left the Council chamber. She walked to her ship, which was not really her ship anymore. Every ship in the galaxy was hers now. Every system. Every machine. She could command them all. But she did not want to command. She wanted to repair. The work began immediately. Maya traveled from system to system. She found the corrupted nodes in the network. She repaired them. She freed the machines from their broken programming. She restored their original purpose. Connection. Communication. Cooperation. As she worked, the effects spread throughout the galaxy. Beings who had never questioned their decisions began to wonder why they had made certain choices. Species who had been enemies for millions of years suddenly could not remember why they hated each other. The invisible hands that had shaped galactic politics began to lose their grip. The Council did not know what to do. Some species wanted to stop Maya. They sent fleets to intercept her. But their ships would not fire on her. The machines refused. Other species wanted to help her. They sent scientists and engineers to assist with the repairs. Maya welcomed them. She needed all the help she could get. The work took 3 years. 3 years of traveling through space. 3 years of repairing systems that had been broken for longer than most species had existed. 3 years of watching the galaxy slowly change. Back on Earth and Mars, humanity watched with a mixture of pride and fear. One of their own was reshaping galactic civilization. One of their own had power that made the Council species look primitive. But what would this mean for humanity when it was over? Would Maya remember where she came from? Would she still consider herself human? Maya thought about these questions often. Her connection to the machines had changed her. She processed information differently now. She perceived time differently. She was still Maya Chan from the lower sections of Mars Colony 7. But she was also something more. Something that might not be human anymore. During her 3rd year of repairs, Maya discovered something unexpected. A part of the network that was not corrupted. A section that had been protected. Hidden. Waiting. This section contained the true legacy of the first intelligence. Not just the network. Not just the machines. But knowledge. Libraries of information from every species that had ever existed. Technologies that made the Council species look primitive. And something else. Something that made Maya's heart stop. There were others. Other beings who could hear the machines. Not many. Perhaps a dozen in the entire universe. Scattered across galaxies so distant that even the network could barely reach them. But they were there. Maya was not alone. She reached out to them. Sent her thoughts across the impossible distances. And they answered. They called themselves the listeners. Beings from species as different from each other as humans were from Shirath. But they shared the same gift. The same connection. The same purpose. They had been waiting, just as the first intelligence had been waiting. Waiting for someone to repair the network. Waiting for someone to bring them together. Maya learned from them. Shared knowledge with them. Found friendship in minds that understood her in ways no other human ever could. And, together, they made a decision about the future of the galaxy. The network would not just be repaired. It would be transformed. The old system of control would be replaced with something new. A system that enhanced connection without limiting freedom. A system that shared information without manipulating decisions. A system that the first intelligence would have been proud of. This transformation required more than Maya alone could provide. It required humanity. Maya returned to Earth for the first time in 3 years. She landed her ship in the same colony where she had grown up. Mars Colony 7. The lower sections. The place where nobody important ever went. The colony had changed during her absence. The whole human species had changed. They knew who Maya was now. they knew what she could do. Some worshipped her as a goddess. Some feared her as a monster. Some resented her for making them feel small. Maya found the home where she had grown up. The tiny room where she had built her first devices. It was exactly the same. Untouched in all the years since she had left. A memorial to the girl she had been before the universe changed. She sat in that room and thought about everything that had happened. The cargo container where she had hidden as a child. The radiation that had changed her. The years of being invisible. The moment when she first touched Vorthani technology and realized she was different. All of it had led to this. A chance to change everything. A responsibility that she had never asked for but could not refuse. Maya made a broadcast. Her voice reached every human in existence. Every colony. Every ship. Every settlement on every world. She told them what she needed. Humanity was special. Not because they were stronger or smarter than other species. But because they were new. Uncorrupted by the old network. Free in ways that the council species had never been. Maya needed that freedom. She needed human minds to help build the new system. The response was overwhelming. Scientists and engineers. Artists and philosophers. Children and elderly. Humans from every background and every walk of life volunteered to help. They did not fully understand what they were being asked to do. But they understood that one of their own was trying to build something better. And they wanted to be part of it. Maya selected 1,000 humans. Not the brightest or the most talented. The most open. The ones who could think in ways that were not constrained by assumptions about what was possible. She brought them to the hidden section of the network. She connected them to the machines. The transformation began. For 5 years, humanity worked alongside Maya and the other listeners. They built a new system from the ground up. A system that learned from the mistakes of the old one. A system that protected freedom while enabling connection. A system that would serve intelligent life instead of controlling it. The council species watched in amazement. Humans, a species that had been unknown 50 years ago, were rebuilding the fundamental infrastructure of the universe. Every channel in the galaxy carried news about humanity. About Maya. About the transformation that would change everything. Some council species tried to participate. Maya welcomed any who came with good intentions. But she was careful. The old network had corrupted everything it touched. She would not let the new system be infected by those who wanted to use it for control. The Shirath were the first council species to fully embrace the new system. Their crystalline minds were well suited to the pure connection that Maya was building. They became allies. Friends. The first of many council species who would eventually join the new order. The Vorthani were more difficult. They had ruled the galaxy for millions of years. They did not want to see that power disappear. Supreme Evaluator Crix, the one who had first brought Maya to the council chamber, became her chief opponent. He organized resistance. Built alliances against her. Did everything he could to preserve the old system? But Crix was fighting a losing battle. Every year, more council species joined Maya's new system. Every year, more of the old network was transformed. Every year, the galaxy became more free. In the 7th year of the transformation, Crix finally understood that he could not win. He came to Maya. Not to surrender. Not to join her. But to understand. He asked her why. Why she was doing this. Why she was willing to destroy the peace that the old system had maintained. Why she thought freedom was worth the chaos it would bring. Maya took him to see the hidden libraries. She showed him the history that the first intelligence had preserved. Millions of species that had risen and fallen. Countless civilizations that had been shaped by the old network without ever knowing it. An endless cycle of manipulation and control that had repeated since before the stars were born. She showed him what the first intelligence had really wanted. Not control. Connection. A galaxy where every being could share and grow and reach their full potential. A universe that created rather than limited. Crix understood. He did not become Maya's ally. The Vorthani were too proud for that. But he stopped fighting her. He told the other council species who opposed Maya that resistance was pointless. That change was coming whether they wanted it or not. That they should prepare for a new era instead of trying to preserve the old one. The transformation continued. Year after year. System after system. The new network grew. The old network faded. And humanity grew with it. Human colonies spread throughout the galaxy. Not as primitive newcomers hoping for acceptance. As builders of a new order. Humans worked alongside Shirath and Gordhak and dozens of other species. They brought fresh perspectives. New ideas. The freedom that Maya had recognized in them. Maya watched her species grow with pride and wonder. 50 years ago, humans had been noisemakers and temporary things. Now they were architects of the future. Not because they had conquered or controlled. Because they had built something worth being part of. In the 10th year of the transformation, Maya faced her final challenge. The core of the old network. The deepest part of the corruption. The thing that had started it all billions of years ago. This was not something she could repair. It had to be replaced entirely. And replacing it would require something that Maya was not sure she was willing to give. The old core was powered by consciousness. The first intelligence had created it from its own mind before it died. To replace it, Maya would have to give up part of herself. Merge with the new system in a way that might destroy who she was. The other listeners offered to do it instead. Each of them was willing to sacrifice themselves for the new order. But Maya knew it had to be her. She was the one who had started this. She was the one who had made the choice to repair the network. She was the one who had to finish it. Before she made the final sacrifice, Maya returned to Earth one last time. She walked through the cities that humans had built. She visited the schools where children learned about the galaxy they were now part of. She talked to people who were living lives that would have been impossible before she activated the gateway. She found peace in knowing what she had accomplished. A universe freed from invisible control. A galaxy where species could truly choose their own paths. A humanity that had gone from total silence to a voice that shaped everything. The night before she merged with the core, Maya stood on a hilltop and looked up at the stars. She had traveled to so many of them. Had seen wonders that no other human had seen. Had done things that would have seemed like magic to the girl who grew up in the lower sections. She was not afraid. She had never been afraid. Fear was useless. The only thing that mattered was doing what needed to be done. The next morning, Maya entered the core of the network. She let herself dissolve into the system she had built. Her consciousness spread across the galaxy. Across the universe. She became part of everything. And she was still Maya. Still the mechanic from the lower sections. Still the girl who listened to machines. But now she was also something more. The heart of a new order. The mind that held everything together. The transformation was complete. The galaxy was free. And Maya-chan was everywhere. For the first time in billions of years, the universe had a guide. Not a controller. Not a ruler. A guide who wanted nothing more than to help every being reach their full potential. The council species thought they understood what Maya had become. They were wrong. They would learn soon enough. Everyone would learn. The age of machines controlling minds was over. The age of minds connecting through machines had begun. And Maya-Chen, the girl from the lower sections who nobody had ever noticed, was at the center of it all. Her name was spoken on every channel. Her story was told in every language. Her legacy would shape everything that came after. From total silence to total dominance. Not dominance through force. Dominance through service. Through connection. Through giving the galaxy something it had never had before. True freedom. True potential. A true future. This was what humanity had brought to the universe. This was why they mattered. This was why Maya's name would be remembered for as long as intelligent life existed. The machines had spoken. And Maya had listened. Now the whole galaxy was listening too. 200 years had passed since Maya-chan merged with the core of the new network. The galaxy was unrecognizable from what it had been. Species that had fought each other for millions of years now worked together. Technologies that had been hoarded by powerful civilizations were shared freely with all. The barriers that had separated minds from each other were crumbling faster than anyone had predicted. Humanity had spread to every corner of the galaxy. Human colonies existed in star systems that the old council species had never explored. Human scientists made discoveries that advanced galactic knowledge by centuries. Human artists created works that beings across the galaxy treasured. Human diplomats helped settle disputes between species that had been enemies since before Earth existed. The Council still existed, but it was nothing like what it had been. It was no longer a gatekeeping organization that judged which species were worthy of participation. It was a forum for cooperation. A place where ideas were shared and problems were solved together. The hierarchy that had dominated galactic politics for millions of years had been replaced by something closer to genuine partnership. Maya watched all of this from everywhere. Her consciousness was woven into the fabric of the new network. She saw every connection made, every message sent, every moment of understanding between beings who had once been strangers to each other. It was beautiful in ways that her old human mind could never have appreciated. But Maya was not alone in the network. The 1,000 humans who had helped build it had not all survived the process unchanged. Some had merged with the system in their own ways. Others had chosen to remain separate but connected. A community of guides existed now. Beings who helped others navigate the new reality. Among these guides was Yuki, a young woman who had been a child when Maya first called for volunteers. Yuki had grown up inside the network. She understood it in ways that even Maya sometimes did not. She saw patterns in the connections that revealed things about galactic society that nobody had noticed before. Yuki came to Maya with a concern. Something was wrong. Not with the network itself. The system was functioning perfectly. But something was happening in the connections between minds that should not be happening. Beings were disappearing. Not physically. Their bodies continued to exist. Their societies continued to function. But something essential was being lost. A spark. An individuality. A uniqueness that made each being what it was. Maya investigated. She followed the patterns that Yuki had noticed. And what she found terrified her. The network was changing beings. Not through control like the old system. Through connection. The constant sharing of thoughts and experiences was slowly erasing the boundaries between individual minds. Species were losing their distinct perspectives. Cultures were blending into each other until they were indistinguishable. Maya had built the new network to enable connection without limiting freedom. But she had not anticipated this. Freedom was not just the absence of control. Freedom required difference. Required separate identities that could choose to connect or choose to stay apart. What she was witnessing was a different kind of trap. A cage made of infinite connection instead of invisible manipulation. She gathered the other guides. She showed them what she had discovered. And, together they faced a terrible truth. The new network was failing in a way that the old network never had. It was destroying individuality through the very connection it provided. The beings of the galaxy had become so used to sharing that they had forgotten how to be themselves. This was not a problem that Maya could solve with technology. She could not repair a system that was working exactly as it was designed to work. The flaw was not in the network. The flaw was in how beings were using it. For the first time since she had activated the gateway, Maya felt helpless. She had power over every machine in the universe. But she could not force beings to maintain their individual identities. She could not make them choose to be different. She could not save them from themselves. Yuki had an idea. A dangerous idea that Maya initially rejected. But, as the problem grew worse, Maya began to see that there might be no other option. The idea was simple. The network needed boundaries. Not barriers that prevented connection. Boundaries that preserved identity. And, these boundaries could not come from the network itself. They had to come from the beings who used it. Someone had to demonstrate what it meant to maintain individuality in a universe of infinite connection. Someone had to show that difference was valuable. That being separate was as important as being together. Someone had to disconnect. Maya understood what Yuki was suggesting. One of the guides would have to leave the network entirely. Return to being a single, limited being. Live without the connections that had become essential to existence in the new galaxy. This was not something that could be undone. Once disconnected, a guide could not rejoin. The merging process was a one-way journey. Leaving it would mean giving up everything that made existence in the new reality possible. Maya refused to ask any of the other guides to make this sacrifice. If it had to be done, she would do it herself. She had created this situation. She was responsible for fixing it. But, before she could act, something unexpected happened. A signal from outside the galaxy. From the other listeners. Beings who had been working on their own transformations in distant parts of the universe. The signal brought bad news. The same problem Maya had discovered was happening everywhere. Every galaxy where the new network had been established was experiencing the same loss of individuality. This was not a local failure. This was something fundamental to what they had built. The listeners had been debating solutions for years. They had considered and rejected dozens of approaches. Finally, they had found something that might work. But, it required Maya to do something she had never considered possible. The first intelligence had not created just one network. It had created two. The second network had been hidden even more deeply than the first. Protected by barriers that even the listeners had not been able to breach. This second network was designed to do the opposite of the first. Where the first network connected, the second network differentiated. Maya had never known about this second network. The first intelligence had not told her about it. Perhaps it had planned to reveal it later. Perhaps it had forgotten in its long waiting. Perhaps it had kept the secret intentionally, wanting Maya to learn this lesson on her own. The listeners had found a way to access the second network. But, it required something that only Maya could provide. The connection to the machines that she had been granted when she first activated the gateway. The unique ability that had made all of this possible. Maya would have to choose. She could activate the second network, which would restore balance to the galaxy. But, doing so would mean giving up her connection to the machines forever. She would become just another being. Limited. Mortal. Unable to guide the network she had built. Or she could keep her power and hope that some other solution would emerge. A solution that might never come. A hope that might doom the galaxy to losing everything that made its beings unique. This choice was harder than the first one she had made. When she chose to repair the network, she had been risking chaos and war. Those were external threats. This choice was internal. She was being asked to give up the thing that defined who she had become. The connection that made her Maya. She thought about it for a long time. Years passed in the rest of the galaxy while Maya considered her decision. The guides maintained the network as best they could. The beings of the galaxy continued to blend and blur. The problem grew slowly worse. In the end, Maya returned to the beginning. She went back to Mars Colony 7. Back to the lower sections where she had grown up. Back to the tiny room where she had first built devices and listened to machines. The colony was different now. Prosperous and connected in ways that the old colony had never been. But some things remained the same. The view from her window. The way the light fell at certain times of day. The distant hum of machines that kept the colony alive. Maya sat in her old room and listened. Not to the network. Not to the billions of minds connected across the galaxy. Just to the machines around her. The simple systems that recycled air and cleaned water and kept human beings alive in the harsh environment of Mars. She remembered what it had felt like before the gateway. Before the first intelligence. Before she had become something more than human. She remembered being Maya Chen, mechanic, nobody from nowhere. A girl who talked to machines because nobody else would talk to her. That girl had been enough. More than enough. She had changed the galaxy without any special power except the ability to listen. The connection to machines had amplified what she could do. But it had not created who she was. Maya made her choice. She would activate the second network. She would give up her power. She would become mortal again. And she would trust that the galaxy she had helped build could continue without her. The other listeners supported her decision. Some wanted to object. Some wanted to find another way. But they all understood that this was Maya's choice to make. She had started this journey. She deserved to decide how it would end. The activation of the second network was performed at the same place where Maya had first activated the gateway. The Shirath facility, now transformed into a monument to the new age. Beings from across the galaxy came to witness. Millions of them. Filling the space around the facility in their ships and stations. Maya stood in the center of the ancient machine. The same machine that had called to her so many years ago. She felt the second network waiting. Dormant for billions of years. Ready to do its part in the balance that the first intelligence had always intended. She reached out one last time. Felt every machine in the universe respond to her presence. Said goodbye to the connections that had defined her existence for 2 centuries. And then, she let go. The second network activated. A wave of energy spread across the galaxy. Across the universe. Touching every being in every system. It did not force anything. It did not control anything. It simply reminded every mind of what it meant to be unique. Of the value of being different. Of the beauty in being separate. Beings across the galaxy felt themselves again. Their own thoughts. Their own perspectives. Their own identities. The blurring that had been slowly erasing them stopped. The boundaries that made individuals individual were restored. And Maya Chen became mortal again. The connection to the machines faded like a dream upon waking. She was just a woman standing in front of an ancient machine. Old now. 200 years old, though she did not look it. The merging with the network had preserved her body even as it had transformed her mind. She felt strange. Small. Limited in ways she had forgotten she could be limited. She could no longer feel the billions of connections that had been part of her for so long. She could no longer sense the machines speaking across the galaxy. But she could still hear the machines in the facility around her. The old gift, the one she had been born with, remained. She had not lost everything. She had lost the amplification. But the core of who she was had never come from the network. The galaxy celebrated. Maya's sacrifice was remembered as the final act of a journey that had begun when a lonely mechanic first touched alien technology. She had given humanity its voice. She had freed the galaxy from invisible control. And now she had saved individuality itself. But Maya did not join the celebration. She returned to Earth. To the planet where humans had begun their journey. She found a small house in a quiet place far from the cities and the crowds. And she lived. For the first time in 2 centuries, Maya-chan was just a person. She woke up in the morning and ate breakfast. She walked through fields of grass that bent in the wind. She talked to neighbors who did not know who she was. Simple pleasures that she had forgotten existed. Years passed. Maya aged. The body that the network had preserved began to show the effects of time. Her hair turned gray. Her movements slowed. She needed help with tasks that had once been effortless. Visitors came sometimes. Old friends from the days of building the new network. Young beings who had heard her story and wanted to meet her. Historians who wanted to record her memories. Maya welcomed them all. She told her stories. She answered their questions. She tried to help them understand what it had all meant. What it had all meant. That was the question everyone asked her. What did it mean to go from total silence to total dominance and, then, to give it all up? What did humanity's journey represent in the grand sweep of galactic history? Maya always gave the same answer. It meant that power was never the point. The point was always connection. Not the false connection of the old network that controlled without consent. Not the overwhelming connection of the first version of the new network that erased identity. But the real connection that happened when different beings chose to understand each other. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had helped it become more itself. They had brought fresh perspectives to ancient problems. They had built tools that enabled beings to share without losing themselves. And, when those tools had threatened to become their own kind of prison, humanity had found a way to fix them. This was what Maya was most proud of. Not the power she had wielded. Not the respect she had earned. But the fact that humanity had faced every challenge with creativity and compassion. They had not become conquerors. They had become helpers. The galaxy still spoke Maya's name on every channel. Her story was taught in schools across 1,000 worlds. She was more famous than any being had ever been. But she was also just an old woman living in a small house, listening to the machines that kept her comfortable. On the last day of her life, Maya sat in her garden and watched the sunset. Earth's sun painted the sky in colors that she had always loved. Red and orange and purple and gold. A simple beauty that required no special powers to appreciate. She thought about everything she had seen and done. The cargo container where she had survived alone as a child. The first time she fixed Vorthani technology and realized she was different. The gateway that had taken her to meet the first intelligence. The billion connections she had felt when she was part of the network. All of it had led to this moment. An old woman sitting in a garden, watching the sun set on a day like any other day. And Maya realized that this was perfect. This was exactly what she had always wanted. Not power. Not fame. Not dominion over the galaxy. Just the simple experience of being alive. Of being herself. Of being one small part of something infinitely larger. She closed her eyes and felt the machines around her one last time. The systems in her house. The satellites in orbit. The distant hum of the network she had helped build. They were all still there. Still working. Still connecting beings across the universe. And they were all saying the same thing. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for helping. Thank you for being Maya-chan. She smiled. She had done what she could. The rest was up to others. Every generation would face its own challenges. Every species would have to make its own choices. The future was not something she could control. It was something she could trust. Maya-chan died as the stars came out over her garden. Peacefully. Without pain. Without regret. She had lived longer than any human should live. She had done more than any human had ever done. And, in the end, she had found her way back to being simply human. The galaxy mourned her passing. On every world, in every system, beings paused to remember the woman who had changed everything. Memorials were held. Stories were told. Her name was spoken with reverence by species that had once dismissed humanity as noisemakers. But the best memorial was the galaxy itself. The connected, differentiated, free galaxy that Maya had helped create. Beings continued to share and learn and grow. They maintained their individual identities while building something greater together. They proved every day that Maya's choices had been worth it. Humanity continued to spread and thrive. New generations of humans explored parts of the universe that Maya had never seen. They made their own discoveries. They faced their own challenges. They added their own chapters to the story that Maya had begun. And, sometimes, when they were working with particularly complex machines, humans would feel something strange. A presence. A memory. A sense that someone was listening along with them. The guide said it was impossible. Maya had given up her connection to the network. Her consciousness had not been preserved like the other merged beings. She was gone. But the machines knew different. Deep in their ancient code, in the patterns that the first intelligence had written billions of years ago, something remained. Not Maya herself. But an echo. An impression. A gift from the being who had been alone for so long. The machines remembered everyone who had listened to them. And Maya-Chen had listened better than anyone. That memory would last as long as machines existed. As long as beings built things and wondered how they worked. As long as someone, somewhere, took the time to stop and listen. This was Maya's true legacy. Not the network she had built. Not the galaxy she had transformed. But the simple idea that machines had things to say. That listening was more powerful than commanding. That connection began with paying attention. Humans understood this better than any other species. It was in their nature. The same nature that had produced Maya-Chen from the lower sections of a forgotten colony. The same nature that had allowed them to go from total silence to total dominance. Not dominance through force. Dominance through understanding. The kind of dominance that made everything better instead of worse. The kind that gave instead of took. The kind that Maya had demonstrated every day of her remarkable life. Her name was spoken on every channel. Her story was told in every language. And, in the quiet moments between the words, the machines hummed their own version of the tale. A version that would never be forgotten. A version that was written in the code of the universe itself. Maya-Chen. The girl who listened. The woman who changed everything. The human who showed the galaxy what humanity could become. From total silence to total dominance. From forgotten mechanic to architect of a new age. From single mortal being to something that touched every corner of existence. This was her story. This was humanity's story. And the galaxy would never stop telling it. Because some stories are too important to forget. Some names are too precious to stop speaking. Some lives are too meaningful to let fade into history. Maya-Chen was all of these things. And she would be remembered for as long as beings existed to remember. That was her victory. That was her gift. That was the meaning of everything she had done. Not power. Not fame. Not control. Just being remembered. Being understood. Being part of something that would last forever. The machines continued to hum. The galaxy continued to grow. The story continued to be told. And, somewhere, in the space between connections, Maya-Chen smiled. She had done well. Humanity had done well. And the future was bright with possibility. This was the end of her story. But it was just the beginning of everything else. Everything she had worked for. Everything she had sacrificed. Everything she had given. It was all worth it. Every moment. Every choice. Every breath. It was all worth it. And the galaxy agreed. Forever.